So, hi everyone, welcome to another office hours conducted by the Adobe Analytics Champions User Group for this month. So, before we start with the session, we'd like to introduce our YouTube channel to you. So, this is the channel. So, I think Ivana has already shared that in the chat and it's been pinged. So, you can visit this YouTube channel for all the office hours videos, and also if there are any tech deep dives or any other events conducted by any of the user groups that we uploaded here, so you can always refer to this. So without much delay, we'll get started with today's session. So before we go to the questions, we'll introduce ourselves. So we have Isha and Abhinav as the presenters for today's office hours. So Abhinav, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining. I'm Abhinav. I work with Publicis Sapient as manager for data analytics. I've been working on Adobe Analytics and Target Plus implementation role for almost 13, 14 years now. And this is my first year as an Adobe champion and technically my third office hours. So looking forward to answer as many questions as I can. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Abhinav. Isha, would you like to go next?
Yep, sure. Sorry, took a minute to unmute. Hi everyone, welcome to this session of Office Hours. I am working for Three Island. I'm leading the digital analytics practice here since October 2022. This is my second year as Adobe champion, and I'm looking forward to getting some good use cases out of here myself. So, thanks everyone for joining in.
Thanks, Isha. Now I'd go and introduce myself. So, hi everyone, this is Anu Abraham. I'm also working in Publicis Sapient as a senior associate in the data analytics team over there. I have around 9+ years of working with Adobe Analytics and Adobe Target, especially focusing on the implementation part of it. And I'm also into other Experience Cloud solutions and AP as well. So, yeah, looking forward to answer some questions and also learn from you as well. So, we'll start with today's questions then. So hope everyone can see my screen okay.
Yes, Anu, we can read through your screen.
All right. So we'll start with the first question for the day. Can users stop or block Adobe Analytics from scraping your data? We have examples of individuals who have been sent emails from Adobe Campaign. The Adobe Campaign tracking log shows email opens and clicks, with the click being a URL or link to a page on our website. We have Adobe Analytics Extra running on our website, yet the data feeds we get back from Adobe Analytics do not contain the traffic for the individual that clicked on the link and, in theory, went to our website. Can the user put anything in place to stop the traffic or data being scraped? So I think if there is some ad blocker or something of that sort in place in the user's browser, then yes, that would be an option. And also if they reject the cookies, right, that would be another case in which they'll not see this data populating in the analytics workspace. So these are the ones that I can think of. But Abhinav and Isha, do you like to add anything to this?
I can go next. So I think, in my opinion, in order to track anyone coming from an email campaign onto a specific website, assuming they have a query string parameter appended, that's the only way they will be able to identify the people are coming via specific campaign on the website. I think that's one of the key elements that should
Hmm.
be in place in order to track this. If
Yeah.
not, most likely this traffic would appear into direct channels, and it's very difficult to identify if this specific set of traffic or visits they came via email campaign or not. And on another hand, I think there are two, three major considerations. One is cookie consent banner. So if users are coming onto the website declining cookies, technically there will be no data tracked for them. Apart from this, there are also browser level ad blockers that can be installed. They identify the MarTech implementations and AdTech pixels implemented on the website, then they would automatically block these tracking calls from the browser console. So no data would be tracked for these users. And then I think with the recent or modern browser releases, there are options to have a privacy or enhanced tracking mode set up that a user can actually put in their browser settings. And based upon how strict or standard guidelines they have set, some of the browsers out of the box also disable tracking pixel calls. So these would be some of the elements that I can think about. Now, with respect to the data feeds, I assume it's referring to Adobe Analytic data feeds. And if
Yeah.
there is a specific query string parameter appended to the destination or landing page URL, it should be part of data feeds.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would just say the same. And really, this kind of use case, I mean, I think the generic points have already been covered by Anu and Abhinav. So I think just to understand what exactly is happening, we would need to look at the setup itself.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's
So
very
just to add, again, if we implement even analytics or target in our site, right? So we have seen cases where it works for most of the users, but some users who are using Mac, then they'll not be able to see it without some settings altered. So that could be another one.
mm,
But yeah,
I
and
think
of
there are
course
few
the pay.
there are few crucial details which are missing. Having them would have been made a little easier to have a specific
yeah,
solution or specific troubleshooting element that we could reach to, but
yeah.
with
I
the
think we've
standard
covered
details,
on.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I think we can move on to the next question then. So I think um, this has also been an experience leak, but I think this sounds interesting, especially with respect to how that's been described. So we'll go to the question. It's about how does data element persistence and EVA persistence behave. So the question goes on like this. I have three EVAs, EVA 1, EVA 2, EVA 3, defined as set to expire after visit. Then I have data element, populate EVA 1, whose storage duration is page view. It is value ABC. I have data element, populate EVA 2, whose storage duration is page view. It is value XYZ. I have data element, populate EVA 3, whose storage duration is page again, and it has value 123. Now, scenario one, I've rule one for step one, where EVA one is populated by value from data element populate EVA one, and then send server call and then clear EVAs is set. I've rule two for step two that triggers after rule one, where I set EVA two value from data element, populate EVA two, and then send server call, and then clear EVAs is set. Then I have rule 3 for step 3 that triggers after rule 2, where I set EVA 3 value from data element, populate EVA 3, and then send server call, and then clear vars is set. Now in scenario 2, I have rule 1 for step 1, where EVA 1 is populated by value, again from the same data element, populate EVA 1, and then send server call, and then clear vars is set. I've rule 2 for step 2 that triggers after rule 1, where I clear verse first and then set EVA 2 value from data element, populate EVA 2, and then send server call and then clear verse is set. I've rule 3 for step 3 that triggers after rule 2, where I set EVA 3 value from data element, populate EVA 3, and then send server call and then clear verse is set. Help me how the data looks for each scenario in Adobe Analytics dashboard. Which EVAs will be populated for step 1, step 2, and step 3? Does EVA 1 value persist on step 2 and step 3? Which persistence is superior, whether it is data element storage duration or EVA expiry set in the report suites level? So I think the major difference in here is what they do for scenario 2 in step 2, where the clear VAS is done first and then the values getting set. So before we go into details, let's talk about the different storage duration options that are available within tags. So in this case, within the tag management system, they have chosen their data element storage duration as page view, but then the other ones are session and visitor. And then the EVAR expiration that is done within Adobe Analytics interface. And then this has different options like visit hit, then be never or time based, like day or based on days or minute. Then it could also be like event based, out of the box events and also custom events. And then there is a custom option with which we can define like how many number of days should it persist. But then one key point to note here is that the data element storage duration does not actually affect the UR's persistence within your Adobe Analytics interface. So where the significance of the data element storage duration comes would be within the tag management itself. If you want to like refer that data element elsewhere or in another rule or something of that sort. So ideally that should not affect the persistence of an UR within within reporting at all. So in both these cases, ideally the values should be the same. Say, for example, in step one, right? So in step one, I think in both the cases, only the first UR is set. So in that case, the value of that would be ABC. And since in step one, UR two and UR three are not set, that be like undefined. And then in step two, they are setting EVA 2. And at this time, EVA 1 is already set in step 1. And since the expiration is at visit level, that should persist. So for step 2, they should have values for both EVA 1 and EVA 2. So EVA 1, which was set as ABC in step 1, is getting persisted. And then we have EVA 2, which just got set as XYZ. So using a clear vars in the step 2 will not actually like erase or the value for EVA 1. It would be still persisting. And then again in step 3, value for EVA 3 is being set from the data element, populate EVA 3. So at that time, all of this should be set, and value for EVA 1 from step 1 and EVA 2 from step 2 should be persisting. So ideally in step 3, this is how the data should look like. EVA 1 should have the value EBC, which is the value that gets persisted from step 1. And then for EVA 2, the value XYZ, which persists from step 2. And then finally, EVA 3 set as 1, 2, 3 from step 3. It should not have any effect on like both the scenarios just by using the clear vars within your tag management system. So Abhinav, Isha, would you like to add anything?
Sure. I think the major difference here is to understand the difference between the data element storage durations and the EUR expiration or persistence that has been set up in Adobe Analytics Admin console. So data element storage is technically the setup that we have done on the client side tag management system or JavaScript. And the whole function of this is to persist, or persist might not be the right word here. The whole purpose of this is to store the value for a specific duration on the client side so that it can be leveraged for tracking in your rules, and you can map it back to the specific variables that you require. It has nothing to do with the persistence. So persistence would technically apply at an EVA level in admin console settings, and it's mostly in the post-processing of the reports in Adobe Analytics. So one of the solution with storage works at the client side, how long you want to keep a value in a data element, and another one is post-processing logic when the data is sent back into Adobe Analytics via tracking call, and how does Adobe, or your based upon your setup, how do you want Adobe to process this EVAR value for specific hit. And in this particular scenario, I think I can see in the scenario 2, post the step 1, clear vars is triggered, and then before the step 2, clear vars is triggered again, if I'm not wrong. So in scenario 2, I can see once the rule 1 is triggered with populating EVAR1, the clear vars is set. And then before we start rule 2 or rule 3, where we are
Rule two.
triggering to,
Yeah,
okay,
in
so
rule.
we are setting clear vars again. So technically it's the same thing. If your two rules are working in a sequential order and you're triggering clear vars after your rule 1 has triggered and send the tracking call into Adobe Analytics, it would work exactly the same if you're triggering clear vars before a rule.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think the major difference here is to understand that EVA persistence would apply with the data that you have sent back into Adobe Analytics in post processing of the reports. And the storage duration for the Adobe launch is technically only able to handle the values on the client side JavaScript. How long do you want to keep a specific value or stored on the client side that you want to leverage for your tracking hits?
Yeah. Thanks,
Isha,
Abhinav.
sure.
Isha, would you like to add anything or?
Not to this one. I think this was already discussed
Yeah.
too long.
So, yeah, we'll go to the next one then. It's about cross domain tracking in Adobe Analytics. It's a generic question. So, they've not given any specific details, but I assume this particular person has like two domains which they work on, and then they want to like identify the visitors as the same visitor in both the domains. So, yeah, Abhinav, would you like to get started on this one?
Sure. I think the cross-domain tracking setup is available out of the box in Adobe Analytics. So there is this concept of Adobe Org ID leveraging Demdex cookie value, which is a third-party cookie to derive the same Experience Cloud ID for the same visitor across both the domains. Now, breaking down into a simple business problem, let's say there is a brand who have two different domains, domain A and domain B. As long as they are leveraging the same Adobe Analytics instance, they should have same Adobe Org ID implemented on both the domains itself. And as soon as the user lands on domain A, ECID, AMC cookie set will be set for them with an MID value, and there will be a demdex cookie which is actually used to derive the MID value for it. And as soon as you land on the domain B, because demdex is the third party cookie in picture here, they would be able to get the same MID value set up on the domain B as well as first party AMCV cookie. So I think I read this logic somewhere in the documentation a while ago, and the value for MID with the Demdex third-party cookie is actually a mathematical calculation formula. So this is the core setup which lets generate the same MID value cross domains itself. So I think this is a pretty standard way to implement cross domain tracking in the scenarios where an organization have multiple brand domains and they want to ensure they are able to stitch the visitor journey when they are moving from domain A to domain B or vice versa.
All right, Abhinav. Isha, would you like to add anything more to that?
I don't have an experience working on this specifically. I have only seen this append visitor ID method, which I think you guys have already explained. So I do remember in one of our in my previous organization, we used to have one website, and then we also wanted to track same users landing, like basically employees just working on landing on intranet. So we used to see the same this ECID if the marketing cloud ID visitor ID remains the same. So yeah, it is tied to the marketing your org ID instance. So if that is same, then the ID used to be same. And I think, of course, if the domains are cross domain, simply you can add the same domain in the in Adobe Launch. So simple example how I do it here in 3. So we have multiple domains and multiple websites. For example, if I want to track users who are going from 3.ie to plus.3.ie, which is anyway a subdomain, I would just embed the same launch code, which is just technically a different sort of easier sort of method, but it will also kind of give you the same visitor and same function across both of them. But of course, if you're looking for specifically cross domain, that you would have to use append visitor ID method.
Yeah, so I've just shared that link for append visitor IDs method over the chat. So in case if anyone wants to refer to that.
And I think I can also talk about the append visitor ID method. So the first approach that we talked about is the standard set of implementation where you don't need to implement append visitor ID. As long as you're using the same org ID plus you have Demdex cookie set up on your implementation, it should automatically be able to derive the same visitor ID for you across the domains. So append visitor ID is technically a method which is built into visitor API.js, which in turn is the Experience Cloud ID extension that we use today. And what this method does is it lets you specify the domain on which you have CTAs implemented on your website, and on the page load itself, there is a small snippet of JavaScript that you need to render, and what it'll do is it will update the destination href in your anchor tags, the CSS selectors that you have provided. Technically, it does a domain match. If you go check the documentation, the example that has been shared there, it lets you provide the domains that you want this feature to be enabled for, and that snippet would actually append the MCMID value and the org ID value in the query string parameters for the destination hrefs. So as soon as the user clicks on those CTAs and lands on your specific domain, the MCMID value along with the org ID value is also passed along with the URL. And this information again then is used by the Adobe Analytics implemented on that page to set or get the value of MID. I think it's a very useful solution if you have a hybrid mobile application setup where a user can move between the native native screens on the mobile applications and the web page views. So this helps preserves the MCM ID or Experience Cloud ID to stitch the journey across the journey.
Yeah. Thanks, Abhinav and Isha. And I think we also got a comment from Nitesh in our chat. So regarding the MID approach, like using up and visitor IDs. So we'll also need to set one flag as override cross domain MCID and ID is equal to true. So without which it would be a bit difficult if the user has already visited one of these domains earlier. So thanks for that shout out, Nitesh. Yeah. So I've already pasted the link for append visitor ID method in here if anyone wants to refer to that. So I think we can go to the next question then.
Sure, no.
What is Adobe Analytics data retention policy and how can we manage data storage limits, if any? So Isha, I see that you've
Yeah.
added some notes. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So default Adobe Analytics data retention policy is 25 months, which you can of course ask to be reduced or increased. If you ask this retention policy, I mean this retention period to be reduced, then there are no charges incurred to you. But if you ask this to be increased, then you can ask for increments up to 8 increments. So increments are given in the form of years, so you can ask for 1 year increment, and of course this is payable, so you will have to, Adobe will give you a specific amount that will depend on your license and your subscription cost. So up to 10 years you can get the this extension of up to 10 years, 1 month, which is like 25-month default, which is your 2 years 1 month that you will already get, and up to 8 extensions you can request. After that, Adobe holds the right to delete your data. So I what I would usually do, if you don't want to go beyond 25 months, if you have a data warehouse, for example Teradata, or if you have something like that, then you can keep sending the data to your data warehouse. Of course that also has some sort of cost to it, but you can use data feeds to send your data. And if or you don't even have to send all of your data. If there is some crucial data that you think would be needed, then you can send it over there, and then you can keep it, or you can just keep the data feeds with you if you want that. But usually I have seen that it is not, because digital data is for the uh, for monitoring and for looking at how website is performing. So usually within 25 months of cycle, even a website undergoes lot of changes. So it is not needed as much beyond 2 years of data. So we don't really need it, but still I think if it's an organization's requirement, you can again go for the extensions, or just keep the data safe using data feeds. About data storage, so there is no publicly, Adobe has not mentioned it publicly, what is the data storage capacity, or if there is any limit on any account. But if you see from the various information that is available, for example, depending on your license, in Adobe standard Adobe license, you have 75 props, 250 events, up to 1,000 events. So 75 props has each prop has a data limit of 100 bytes. Each var has a data limit of 255 bytes. Then there are list vars, and each field has a limit of 255 bytes. Product variable Each field of product variable is 255 bytes. Each value, for example, if it's category, that is 100 bytes, and overall product variable is allocated 64k bytes. So this on the top of it, there are unique values, unique thresholds that are imposed. So if the low threshold is 2 million, high threshold is 2.1 million, so rest goes in low traffic. So all these combine, so of course you will have to combine all this volume and see how Adobe is storing your data. So I there is, again, there is no publicly available information on that, but if you have some concerns about your data storage or your data retention, I think it's best that you reach out to your Adobe's your client care rep, because or your account executive, because they'll be the best person to advise you on what you would like to do with that. Anu and Abhinav, you can add to that.
Abhinav, would you like to add anything? I think Isha has pretty much explained it very in
I think
details now.
Isha has pretty much comprehensively explained all the aspects of this, but I think again, just like to add the default data retention of 25 months. I think that's the standard Adobe setup which is available.
Yes.
And then I've seen the clients, they have a longer duration of Adobe data retention period as part of their contracts itself. And one of the prime reason is that they would technically they like to perform year over year analysis, and sometimes they would need to go back to like probably 2 years or 3 years ago, how they were capturing specific element, what were their high level KPIs, and then validate this with respect to how they're performing today on year over year analysis. So I think that's the sole use case that I can think of, which would primarily mainly be at high level or executive level reporting that needs to be done. And apart from that, as we discussed, I think data feeds is one of the pretty good options if you want to keep track of your raw level hits for a longer duration of time. This can be put into a data warehouse and leveraged to set up the reports as required whenever, how long in the back in the time we need to do an analysis for. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, this is it for myself.
Yeah. So I think that was all the questions that we had like pre-submitted, and then we have one more questions from Nitesh that was in the chat. I just tried to like
If you can reload, I have added a screenshot in the last as the last panel for I tried to build that segment if I understood that correctly.
okay.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can.
this one, right? Yeah. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, so of course, feel free to add to it because I've not
Sure.
created it before. So I think it just said I've got a use case for the sequential segment. I want to know the returning visitors, users who land on the login success page and returns to the website after 2 weeks. So what I did here, of course, it is subject to change depending on what your events are. So so I took a container and the entire segment needs to be visitor level, and the this segment container also needs to be visitor level. So what I did, I just used page path, which equals your login success page, or if you have an event, you can feel free to use an event. Then I added then, which is a sequential operator, and then I just added page views because you're just saying that user visited the website, so I'm assuming that page views would exist. And in then I just used the after within clause. You just click on that little clock icon and it will appear. So I just said after 2 weeks page views exist. In my instance, the volume was coming out to be very very low because I do believe these are a bit stringent conditions that you are looking to get users to come after 2 weeks. But I think you can try this out and see what you are getting, if that helps. But yeah, if Anu and Abhinav has any experience of working in this segment, or if, I mean, we can see what else we can do here.
Abhinav, would you like to add anything?
Sure. I think this is exactly the way I imagined it to be. To be very honest, I couldn't think of anything else, or probably an alternate way to report on this specific requirement. First, if you're looking forward for a returning visitor-based use case to return specific values, it has to be a visitor level container, which I can see we have already done here. And because we need to set it up in a sequential segment to identify or add a specific time duration between two specific hits to understand if the specific user returned or not. So I think pretty much this holistically covers the logic, but again, we would need to test out the segment return sub numbers and then identify if this approach is actually what we're looking forward to and it works as expected or not.
So Nitesh has one more comment. He wants to see users who come back within 2 weeks, whether returning visit is the next visit after the login success visit. So I think, of course, you can change this to within. That is no problem because you have within clause as well instead of after. Uh, regarding, so I think there are so only before, and I think if you anyway use then, right, then the users, all of the users that would be returned, uh, it would, I think it so sequential segments are always tricky. It would really matter which dimension you are seeing it against. So it will give you all, it will return all the visitors, but also all of the activities of that visitors. Now, if you are specifically looking to see, so for example, if you have new and returning visitors using get new repeat uh, installed, so if you have that plugin, then you can look at the returning visitor using this segment. Then you will get exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, you can use visit number 2 or visit number report, or you can just say visit number greater than 1, and then you use this segment. So it would really matter the way you are using this segment. And I don't know why you would want to see within 2 weeks also. Like, is it some specific, like, do you have any use case of why you would like to see users who are coming back within 15 days or after 15 days after login? You can, I think you can also use cohort tables for that. So in
Yeah.
cohort table, you can
Yeah.
just use your event, like your event as the login, and in your dimension, so you can give a custom dimension if you would like, and in that you can just change whichever dimension you want to see, if that's a page or if that's a, even a device type, or you can just look at the cohort altogether. And I don't know if it's possible. We can try to build a cohort right here in Anu's screen if that's needed.
So, Nitish, if you could please let us know if this has been useful to you.
Yes, exactly. So he said cohort table is easier to interpret.
Please.
It is
Okay,
exactly.
let me try adding one. So, do we need to add it here or?
Do one thing, just 1 second. I will just add it and then you can hit reload.
Yeah.
So I would drop a metric. I would just build it on page views. You can change it to login if you want. Let's keep it by week and let's keep retention and hit build. So you can hit reload. Wait,
Okay.
I'll save it. Wait. I'll save it first. Yeah, now you can hit reload. So, Nitesh, this is a basic one. In this, the inclusion criteria, Anu, if you can click on the edit icon, then he can see. So, your inclusion criteria here could be your login event, your return criteria could be your page views, and then, of course, you can segment it out if you
Yeah.
want, and you
Using the
can
page
start
name. Yeah.
exactly segment, and also you can use a custom dimension if you want. That will come if you click advanced, and then just, I think, build it out, and what you're looking for, it should be there. Something like that. So this, of course, this data view has limited data because we are using a sandbox. I believe yours will have more cohesive data that you
I
can
think it's,
analyze.
yeah. So, please do try this out and hope this would help you. All right. So, Nitish, we hope this would work for you. And let's move on to the next section then. We've also curated some product release updates. So we'd go one by one. So the first is about the support for secure cloud destination in Report Builder. So Abhinav, would you like to explain this one?
Sure. I think this is one of the good product releases. I was just going through the documentation on the product releases a couple of days ago, and I was pretty happy to see this change now. So with the new report builder extension, I'm not sure if any one of you guys have used it yet, but it's pretty cool comparatively to the earlier one. There is now an option to support the destination delivery on the cloud locations itself. Earlier, we are only able to schedule reports from the report builder Excel plugin to get a CSV, Excel, or a PDF version, file format of the version. But with this setup now available, the cloud locations that we have set up on Adobe Analytics itself, they are accessible in the Excel report builder plugin as well, and we can configure these reports to be delivered on the cloud blob storage directly itself, which in itself it's a pretty good feature considering that we can have these exports in the desired format getting updated into directly into the storage, and then obviously we can have I don't know if there is a specific data analysis requirement that looks forward for this file, so we can automate entire end-to-end setup without the usage of APIs itself. And another good feature about this is that you can append the timestamp as well as the date range. So if you are keeping a track of different files, let's say I need a daily delivery of a specific report with few dimensions and a metric that I need to export back into the cloud for some data analysis or maybe append into a specific data warehouse, I can actually leverage this setup with the timestamp appended file formats into the blob storage, which can trigger some kind of workflow and help us append this data back into a specific data warehouse table. So all in all, I think this is pretty good feature, which would technically help eliminate a little bit dependency on APIs if there is a fixed format of data export that we need to pass back into a cloud storage location. And again, this can also be achieved using data warehouse, but I think Excel is the primary data analysis tool that we all have used. So we all would be pretty much more comfortable in Excel itself.
Thanks for sharing that, Abhinav. So I think we can go to the next one then. It's about the new preview experience. So if you've recently opened the segments or calculator metrics interface, right, you would see that there used to be a donut visualization earlier, which has now moved to a horizontal bar visualization. So if you've created segments before, you would know, like, there would have been a donut visualization that was showing the number of hits or visits or visitors, based on the condition of the segment that you've defined. But instead of turnout, right now you would see a horizontal bar visualization on the right side of that. And, probably, like, would be more like visually appealing and a bit more easier to understand that. So, Abhinav, would you like to add anything onto that?
I think you've pretty much covered everything. I know this change I very recently observed while creating one of the segments for a use case, and I was pretty excited to see the new visualization, especially the colorful aspect of this. It's pretty easy on the eye now, and I think it offers a better readability as well. It's easier to understand the data numbers which are being returned by the specific segment condition
Yes,
comparatively to the donut charts.
done.
It's easier to read if required. You can probably take a screenshot of this and share it back with your team as well. So it does offer a greater flexibility in terms of how we read these numbers with just a visualization change in the platform.
Yeah. So, Isha, would you like to add anything onto that, or shall we move to the next?
Um, just that in my instance, I haven't received this
Oh,
visualization yet. So,
Actually,
yeah.
this feature is available for both calculated metrics as well as segments. But in my instance,
Segments.
I could only see it working for the segments, but not for the calculated metrics yet.
okay, like working in the champion sandbox. I saw this visualization, but it is not present for uh, my Adobe instance yet. I'm still getting the donut. It could be that they are rolling it out slowly,
Rolling
so
it out. Yeah.
should be all right. But it's yeah, it's a great improvement nonetheless.
Yeah. So over to the next one. We've briefly, like, gone through this in our previous office hours, but then at that time it was like scheduled and wasn't in effect. But then now this is something that has been like being rolled out. So this is about adding and viewing comments in the analysis workspace project. So Apina, would you like to go into detail?
Sure, Anu. So I think this is one of the much anticipated features where we now have capability to use Adobe Workspace and add comments with respect to the specific elements that we're reporting on. It lets you add comments towards the right hand sidebar itself. And one of the greatest advantages of this is we can actually tag specific people who have Adobe Workspace access, and we can have a conversation going. So let's say if you find some anomalies in the data and you want to double check with another analyst, it's easier for you to tag them, for them to get a notification in Adobe console itself, so that you can come back and see, okay, there are five different mentions that I have for a specific workspace, and they can always review the data, maybe do a little deeper analysis on the specific element and get back on the same thread itself. Along with that, I think the two major features, you can use at the rate similar to ones that we use on major chat applications like Teams and Slack to mention someone and they get a notification out of this. Along with that, we can also have a right hand side bar where we can mark up a specific element on the workspace and add some of the information that we want to for discovery or any notes that we would like to add to a specific workspace, which in itself is a pretty cool feature because a lot of analysis that we build, we do it on the workspace. And currently, the only mechanism we have is to share the workspace URL and tell them, hey, I see X freeform table having this much data and something doesn't look right to me, or something needs additional discovery, which eliminates the need of getting out of Adobe Analytics. That communication part can also be handled into the workspace itself.
So this is only for CJA, right? So as of now, it's only for CJA, and I think administrators can enable it on a project level or on an account level. So if you are if you're using CJA and if you're not seeing that, then probably it's being rolled out, and then probably you can also check with your admins if it has been enabled for you. But I would love to see this in Adobe Analytics.
Exactly my point. I think we would love to see this in Adobe Analytics as well.
Yeah.
Me too, of course.
Yeah, and all those new features like journey canvas and the like additions to the flow visualization and all, right? So some of them are in CGA now, but would definitely love to see all of this in Adobe Analytics as well. But for the folks who are actually using CGA now, I hope this would be like really beneficial for you. So yeah, if you're not seeing it, probably you can check with your admins. This can be enabled on both workspace project level and also on account level, I guess. So yeah. And I think that's it what we've curated for today. But I think we can also talk about the new CJA B2B edition. So that's also a major release update for this month. So they've officially introduced CJA B2B edition. So everyone who are waiting for that and are not into CJA because they didn't have a B2B edition, you can uh, go ahead with CJA now since they have B2B edition now. So I think some of these features or points include like account-based kind of identification as well, rather than just relying on person-based stitching or identification. So in a B2B, it may not be a single person who's be taking these decisions as like how they progress in that funnel or journey, right? Conversion journey. So if they have such details about like account-based modeling or tools like demand views or Sixth Sense could be, but if that details are embedded or included in AP, then it's very well for them to like stitch that together and identify how exactly they are moving ahead in that journey, and um, probably like use all other tools and platforms in conjunction with this. Yeah. So Apina, would you like to add anything?
I think I know you have pretty much covered everything with respect to B2B. Honestly, I haven't got a chance to work on any of the B2B
Yeah.
editions, be it
When I
artist
haven't,
agency.
yeah.
But I think conceptually, B2B has a longer or a different sales funnel itself from
Yes.
B2C itself. So having a platform dedicated to B2B based setup would actually ease out a lot of implementation efforts and have a better setup in context to CGI itself.
Yeah. So I think we've covered almost all the topics that we have curated for today and all the pre-submitted questions. So just wanted to check everyone in the chat if there are any new questions or anything that you wanted to share.
I don't see any questions on the chat.
So yeah, I think we are okay. There is one question from Animesh Kumar about how can we leverage Adobe Health Dashboard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't think we can discuss it in such a short duration, but what you can do is you can go to, so just to give you a brief on it, you would need to, so go to Health Dashboard. There is a link of it that I will just share, and then you can connect using API. So it's an API connection, and then from there you can look at your report suite's overall health, that how your variables are performing, which is getting the data, which is not getting the data. So yeah, I think this could be kept as a topic for next office hours,
next
because I
one.
don't think you can really cover it.
Sure. Yeah.
Everything, yeah, yeah. But then we have implemented this for one of our clients, and in that case, you know what happening there was they have one major website and then two microsites, and then there was this act like the microsites they were not really collecting this data as expected. But then for someone to manually go through each of these reports, especially the ones that are not in regular use, they may not really see it in the first place, like when it was actually broken. But then this actually helped us to identify which all are the variables or reports that didn't have the data coming in for, like, say, in 1 month, or you can select the duration. Again, it's going to be a Excel based interface, but then you'd be able to see from a report suite level which all are the variables that are not kind of broken, or if you're not getting the data as expected, so things of that sort. So I think there is health dashboard and marathon dashboard as well, but probably we can uh, take this as a detailed topic for our next office hours. All right, so do we have any more topics or questions? All right, I think that's it for today. So thanks everyone for attending this office hours. We hope to see you in the next one. Thanks,
Thank you
Abhinav,
everyone for
Vishnu, and
joining.
Ivana.
Thanks,
Thank
Thanks,
Anu.
you.
thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
Isha.
Thanks. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
All.
Bye.